Thanks, guys. Recently, I saw Nutcracker Rouge, a new adaptation of the Nutcracker Ballet performed by Company XIV, a Baroque burlesque-inspired dance troupe based out of Brooklyn. I sat down with artistic director Austin McCormick and company member Laura Careless and discussed Nutcracker Rouge and their plans for the future as a growing company here in New York. Austin, you are the founding member of Company XIV. How did you end up beginning the idea for this company?
When I was a student at Juilliard, we started doing some projects over the summer. So I started that process of forming a nonprofit while I was still a student. And so when I graduated, I had a company.
Which is interesting. I know most dancers tend to go out and work professionally for quite some time before deciding to found their own companies.
You know, I think you kind of learn as you go, and I was really committed to working with talented dancers and designers, and it's been really wonderful. And I think some people advise me to maybe dance first and form the company later, but I'm really happy with the way it's turned out.
I started off at the Royal Ballet School in London, and then I trained at the Maurice Béjart School in Lausanne, Switzerland, and then I came to the States to go to Juilliard, which is where Austin and I met. No, I do count myself lucky to... so early in my dance career, I have found a collaborative partnership that does seem to have momentum to continue to evolve and to be so challenging and stimulating to me as an artist, but also to be right up my alley at the same time. And I don't take that lightly.
Part of our mission as a company is to reimagine classic stories. So we pulled a lot of sources together. We looked at Little Red Riding Hood, the Charles Perrault version, which is from the 1700s. And we looked at an adaptation of the E.T.A. Hoffmann story by Dumas that is also set in the 1700s. So we wanted to pull this kind of Baroque aesthetic into the show. You know, we set the show in kind of an imagined world of this Baroque burlesque, which is kind of a genre that doesn't exist in reality, but in my fantasy it does. So I guess I would call it 17th century dance hall is the Kingdom of the Sweets in our version of the Nutcracker.
For anyone who's not familiar, kind of describe Baroque a little bit.
So the Baroque period is 1600 to 1750. From the time of Louis XIV, it really was codified under his rule, that style. So it's ornate, you think heeled shoes, powdered wigs, corsets, and it's the beginning of classical ballet. That's Baroque movement. So a lot of the movement you would see in classical ballet now, Baroque is the beginning of that. You know, over-the-top design and music and dance and theater and this whole kind of spectacle. That's part of what I try to do with the company is really embody that 360-degree experience, you know, that you really walk into the space and you're a part of the performance, which is very sort of signature of the Baroque time.
The show encompasses a lot of different meanings of the term burlesque.
Yeah, well, we looked a lot at the root of the term burlesque. It seemed like an interesting thing to delve into this idea of Baroque burlesque and to imagine the story set in the 1700s, but what would burlesque be in that period? Obviously, it's an imagined thing because I'm also referencing contemporary burlesque a bit with the pasties and with sort of the things that are iconic.
How is it as a performer then working in this environment where you actually are telling the story amidst the audience as though they were part of it?
Well, before we opened, I was actually very apprehensive about it because you didn't know if people were going to move when you started dancing, and you didn't know how it was going to be so close to them and to be able to see their faces and their reactions. But it's actually been a wonderful experience just to feel that you're all starting in the same place and you're going on this journey together. It's not so presentational. You're not so objectified. You're all in this story together, and it's talking about a common experience that everybody has.
Part of what I wanted to do with the show is to really involve people immediately, get them into the experience when they first walk into the doors. So since we were doing this sort of ode to classical ballet, the Nutcracker, I wanted to involve people right away. And that's part of what I love to do with the company is to choose stories that are familiar to people, but to twist them and contort them and take them into new directions. I mean, that's part of what I love in going to the theater is seeing something like a classical play, but thinking about it in a new way. I'm not really attracted to museum piece, theater or dance. I think it has its place, and I think we all need to know where we're coming from and our history, and I believe in preserving. But in terms of new work, I love to take a story that everybody knows and reimagine it.
Now, Company XIV is a nonprofit company.
Yes, it's part of the way that we fundraise is to be a nonprofit, and actually half of the proceeds of this show go to the Ali Forney Center, which is a really wonderful cause in New York City. It's a shelter for lesbian, gay, transgender, bisexual youth. So we're really excited about that, to be, giving back a bit to the community.
What advice do you have for anyone who's perhaps, starting out in their artistic endeavors, wanting to begin a theater company, a dance troupe?
I would say it's cliche, but the biggest piece of advice I can give is just to stay true to yourself and to really make the work that is in you to make.
I think a lot of people who are successful because of their persistence.
What's the future for Company XIV?
I'm working on a one-woman project for Laura, Careless, which
very
I'm really,
excited
really
about.
excited about. Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And that's at our space on Bond Street. And I'm also planning another show for children, which that will be a fairy tale-inspired show in the spring as well.
And it's a New Year's show. I have to ask, what goals or aspirations do you have for yourself in the coming new year?
My New Year's resolution is to get out and make the most of being in New York City, because I sit around and complain about all the things I don't like about New York, and I never go out and do anything about the things that I do like about being in New York. One of which is that you have access to a lot of great art here.
Austin, Laura, thank you guys so much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Nutcracker Rouge is playing at Company XIV's performance space at 303 Bond Street in Brooklyn now through January 9th. Don't miss a special performance on New Year's Eve. It should be a great way to ring in the new year with these guys. For more information on Company XIV, Nutcracker Rouge, and their New Year's Eve performance, please check out our website, artsyfartsyshow.com or wbai.org.